G'day, I'm Pete, the Aussie Bush Cop. In 2012 I retired from the New South Wales Police because of mental health issues, and now I live on beautiful King Island where I become a homesteader, and I'd like to share some stories with you. G'day everyone, thanks for joining with me again for another one of my stories from the Australian bush. This story involves, I think they always do, an arrest. And this was a domestic violence matter. Happened in a small country town. And my partner and I were on night shift, and we were called to this particular residential home where the person of interest had already left. And the person of interest was the son. He was an adult son. So when we got there, the lady, the mother, she told us that she'd been assaulted by him, and that her daughter, the person of interest sister, had also been assaulted. And assaulted to the point where there was blood on the floor of this home. So we were, of course, working out of a marked police truck, and as I said, it was night. And so I said to my partner, it was going to be my job. In case you're wondering how that happens, it's just job for job. If you and I were working together, I do this job, the next job is naturally yours. Doesn't matter, it's not based on how complex or how much work's involved. It might be you go from the beginning of a murder to a noise complaint. Anyway, it just goes job for job. This particular job was mine. So I said to my partner, can you go back to the station and get the exhibit camera? And so he left and went back to get the exhibit camera. So I then sat down, was actually on a lounge just inside in the lounge room, which was just off the hallway which led to the front door. So I was sitting down and starting to take preliminary notes in my notebook about what had happened prior to taking a statement from her. So anyway, I was sitting down on this lounge, and I heard the front door open, and I knew I didn't hear a car or a vehicle pull up, and it was too quick for it to be my partner back. So I was immediately alert as to, well, who's this? And so was the mother. And she actually got up before me, and she looked down the hallway towards the front door. I don't actually recall anything that she might have said, but I was right behind her anyway. And it was the son that had committed these offences. He found out later, that when he saw my partner leave to go and get the camera, that he thought both of us had left. But of course he was mistaken. So what then ensued was a struggle and a fight in the hallway. So I grabbed hold of him because he was going to leave again when he saw that I was there. So I grabbed hold of him, and very consciously, I did this very consciously, and most of the time, in fact maybe all the time, this is what happens. Because on either side of the front door, which was a timber door, there was panes of glass, clear glass, on either side of the door. And so my intention was to grab hold of him and to swing him and land him into the wall and wind him, and then put him on the ground and effect the arrest. But I was very conscious of the fact that I didn't want him to come into contact with the glass, because of course that would mean he could be critically injured or even die. Anyway, so that happened, and I grabbed hold of him, I think by his left arm and maybe his left shoulder, and flung him like a pendulum and into the wall. But it didn't have the desired effect, because it didn't wind him, and he continued to fight. It was around that point my partner arrived back, and he could see through this glass, this melee happening in the hallway between me and him. So he quickly came into the home, and while the accused was still standing up, the accused then headbutted me. I'm not sure if that happened before my partner got there or after. But anyway, I'd been headbutted, and it made me, quite bloodied in the face, and I looked quite a mess. And anyway, so my partner then came in, and he was standing behind the accused while we were trying to put him on the ground. He was a big lad. I mean, I say lad, but he was an adult, but he was a big unit. Anyway, so the accused then threw his head backwards and into my partner's face and actually broke his nose. So that's pretty horrible. If you ever had your nose broken or your nose touched in a violent way, you know how sensitive it is. Anyway, we then managed to get, despite my injury and my partner's injury, we got this big bloke on the ground and handcuffed to the rear. So then, of course, the one thing you have to be very aware of is a thing called positional asphyxiation, where someone can actually run out of breath if they're on the ground and there's people on their back. So anyway, we quickly stood him up with the intention of taking him out and putting him into the back of the paddy wagon. As we're going out the front door, when immediately outside the front door there was a small, meaning about maybe 1 metre by 1 metre concrete veranda with steps then leading down. It was about maybe 1 or 2 feet off the ground level. As we're going down a few steps, the prisoner then surged forward in an attempt to get away, and he fell heavily onto his front, and I was still behind him, and I fell too. So anyway, he didn't seem to suffer any more further damage to that, or nothing significant anyway. So we got him back to the station, did what we had to do there, charged him, and I was going through to, got a statement from his mother, from his sister, and so then I was reading through the statement to decide what were the appropriate charges, and including the charges against resisting arrest on me, on my partner, assaulting me, assaulting my partner. There was 9 offences. And I thought, I read through the statement again, and part of what she'd said to me was that he kicked, in all of this melee, the part that happened before we got there, he actually kicked the family dog. Now, I love animals, I love mothers, and he wasn't rating too highly in my view. To assault your mother, to me, is just dastardly. It's a horrible thing to do. And to kick your dog, that's pretty bad too. Anyway, so I added a charge of a cruelty offence to the dog. Anyway, went to court. He then pled guilty to these offences, and then of course is set over for sentencing. And I'm pretty sure he was a clean skin. And so what then happened was that it was rather alarming to me and to others that the magistrate actually issued a bigger penalty, and I think they were monetary penalties. He issued a harsher penalty for kicking the dog than he did for breaking my partner's nose. We then approached the Department of Public Prosecutions, and the word they use, or the expression they use, is if the sentence is manifestly inadequate, then that can be put before the next superior court, which in New South Wales is the district court, which is a man or woman that wears a gown and a wig. So it's serious stuff. District court, because it has to go to the next level of court. Anyway, so the DPP agreed with us, and against the severity, against the or the leniency of the sentence, and it was then heard by a judge. And the judge gave him a stronger or stiffer penalty, which still wasn't imprisonment, and certainly that offence would certainly carry significant prison time. And I didn't necessarily want him to go to jail. I don't think going to jail's, rarely people come out of jail any better than what they do when they go in. But I can tell you that a few months later, after he'd been dealt with by the judge in the district court, I then had another reason to arrest him. He was causing a melee in the back of some of the shops in the same town where he committed the first offence, in the middle of the night, just full of grog and bad manners, and we went there and I arrested him again. But I can tell you, the next time I arrested him, he was rather contrite. Thanks for watching.